Today we're going to talk about why readers fall in love with flawed characters and the psychology behind it. Award-winning and best-selling mystery writer and former therapist, and on this channel we talk about the psychology and systemic therapy models that can help bring life and depth to your characters and your stories. So perfect characters don't inspire any type of loyalty. In fact, oftentimes they create a sense of distance that the reader tends to pull away from. If a reader says, "I don't know why, but I love this character," it's almost always because of a flaw rather than them being perfect or despite a flaw. Today I'm going to show you the psychology behind why flawed characters are more compelling than the honest ones or the ones that are perfect. In psychology and in therapy in general, we always talk about relational safety. People that feel human, right? There's a sense or people trust what feels human. Things that are familiar, things that they've dealt with, things that they understand and can relate to. Perfect characters are unrelatable. They create comparison anxiety, right? Where the reader is now comparing themselves to this character, wondering why they're not like them, they're not as good as them. It creates a distance between them and the character. And the last thing you want is a story where the reader is disconnected from your main character. It also has no emotional risk, right? If the person is too disconnected, they aren't tied to this character emotionally or anything else. Spiritually, psychologically, there's no stake for them in this story. But more importantly, what does a flawed character tell your reader? It tells them that you don't have to be perfect to belong here. And that, to most readers, is pretty irresistible. So let's talk about the 3 areas of imperfection that readers are going to most likely relate to and be drawn toward. The number 1 is self-doubt. It shows internal conflict and it has a lot of potential for growth. Everybody deals with some level of self-doubt, whether it's professionally, romantically, whatever the case is. Everybody's going to have a sense of self-doubt somewhere in their life that they can relate to. They can connect with this character on this level. There's also defensive behavior because most people, if they feel attacked or they feel threatened, they're going to start getting defensive. It's just natural human tendency. And it also signals pain without exposition. The other thing that draws a lot of readers in when it comes to a flawed character is moral inconsistencies. Readers recognize themselves almost immediately. Everybody has a moral standard and a moral high ground, but there's inconsistencies within that, because you can't always be one thing. Every situation is not going to allow for it, and you find yourself questioning some of your moral judgments at times. Even though you might fall back on it, you're going to return to it. That's kind of the anchor point. There's inconsistencies within all moral judgment, so that instantly is going to pull the reader in, not only because they can relate to it, but because now they're curious, how is this character going to rectify this? How are they going to justify it? And how are they going to work through this to reach whatever the end goal to the plot is? And the beautiful thing is you can use these flaws as entry points into the next topic, the next thing, to draw that story forward and keep it progressing and moving as the character learns and starts unraveling some of these flaws that they have. So where do writers mostly get it wrong? The most common one is cosmetic. Making it very surface level. A flaw that never costs the character anything. There's no stake, there's no loss, there's nothing bad that's going to happen as a result of this flaw. It's just decoration at that point. It's not something that is going to keep the reader invested. It's just this person has this flaw for the sake of having this flaw. Real flaws, on the other hand, they damage relationships, whether that's family, work, romantic. They often sabotage the person's goals, right? So is your character going through this book self-sabotaging? Are they sabotaging other people? what are they doing that is causing a negative impact? And it also creates regret. And I'm sure you can relate to that, where one of your personal flaws has caused you to not take an opportunity or push away in a relationship, and therefore now you have regret on what could have been, or that what if. So how do you write a truly magnetic flaw that is going to suck your reader in and get them totally invested in this person because they're a crap show? Everything about their life is maybe messed up. So obviously you don't have to write a character that's that flawed. In fact, if you do that, then you're almost drawing too much on sympathy rather than connection. And that connection piece is what's going to draw readers in far more than sympathy. Doesn't mean your character can't be a crap show, but do it with taste, do it in justification to the plot and the story, and not just to hope the readers find sympathy for this character and turn to him for that reason. The first question to ask yourself as you're developing this character is, what does this flaw protect them from? Our behaviors and our actions, the things we believe, the things we do, the way we interact with the world around us, ultimately is always to protect us. It's never anything else, for the most part. Our brain is designed to try to keep us safe, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically. So these flaws are developed because it's conditioned and taught to us that if we do these things, it'll protect us from these things. Whatever those things are, that kind of depends on the character and the need for the story, but it has to serve a purpose. Nobody does anything for the sake of doing something. Everything has a purpose, even if it's not conscious. It could be an unconscious reason for doing something, but there's always a reason of some sort. And what would happen if this character lost this? Now they have to deal with this problem. They have to deal with whatever it is that they're trying to protect themselves from. So what happens then? Are they able to do that? Do they create a new coping mechanism, or does a new flaw emerge because this old one is gone and they still don't know how they're going to deal with this issue? So dive into things like that. One of the big things therapists do is we ask a lot of W questions: the who, what, when, where. The why always comes out of those. If those can be answered, then we kind of figured out the why. So when you're developing your character, run through that. What has caused this person to be flawed? What happened that taught them this was how they would stay safe? What are they protecting themselves from? What happens if this isn't here? When did this occur? When does this flaw become present? How does it impact relationships? How does it impact them? How has it impacted their goals in life or their goals in the story? Things like that. So if you found this video useful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you can catch up every week on new psychology tricks to bring life and depth to your characters and your stories.